All right, we'll get started. Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the District's Department of Public Works Recycling webinar for the healthcare industry. Thank you all for taking the time to join us today. Here's our agenda for today's webinar. We'll do some quick round of welcomes and introductions. We'll go over current recycling requirements and discuss new upcoming requirements that will be effective in 2018. We'll review how this may impact the healthcare industry and also solicit some feedback in terms of what resources may be helpful for your industry to transition to this new recycling list. I'll also be sharing an overview of the food service packaging rules, and we'll have some time at the end for going over the timeline as well as Q&A. So quickly, housekeeping information. Today's webinar will be recorded and available online. We will be emailing everyone with resources and the slide deck after the webinar. And if you have any questions or feedback, there will be opportunity at the end for Q&A, so please use the chat function on the right, and we can also unmute everyone when we get to there. If you forget, we will also share at the end of our presentation email information so you can contact us. So we'll get started. My name is Helen Lee. I'm a program analyst at the Office of Waste Diversion at the Department of Public Works. I'll be sharing my information again at the end if you want to get in touch with me separately to ask any questions. So first, we'll be discussing the district's new recycling requirements. And I wanted to go over the current recycling requirements to you all. There are three basics, whereas a private collection property, you must provide adequate waste collection services, which includes supplying accessible recycling containers so that your patients, guests, and staff can recycle at the hospitals. So you can think about places where waste is generated, including patient waiting rooms, front desk lobbies, elevator lobbies, and any cafeterias or other eating areas. What we are not talking about today are any rules related to hazardous or medical waste. We're simply talking about waste and recyclables, separating those out. Current recycling rules state that you should also communicate information annually, including how and what to recycle, as well as post signs at containers showing what to place in those recycling bins. Also, as a commercial property owner, currently it is required to separate paper, paperboard, cardboard, metal, and plastics that are narrow-necked plastic bottles. The new requirement that will be effective in January 1, 2018 is a change in what is required to be recycled in the district. This past December, the Mayor's List of Recyclables and Compostables was published, where for the first time in the district, it provides a single comprehensive list of recyclables. So in a lot of cases now, what you can recycle depends on where you are. So where you can recycle at work or home and school or even a hospital can be different on where you go. Now, there will be one defined list of recyclables that all district properties will be required to follow. This will go into effect January 1, and until then, existing requirements will remain in effect in terms of what's considered recyclable. If you'd like to make the switch early on, that's okay too. We wanted to provide ample time for our stakeholders to know this new list in transition. This list was created by a survey of the recycling facilities in the region, where we asked the recycling facilities which materials they would accept but do not want, or reject. And we reviewed over 70 different product types. What was added onto this list was ones that the majority accepted. What was removed were those that the recycling facilities did not want. So diving closely into this list, what is now considered recyclable are materials like paper and plastic food service items. This includes pizza boxes, paper coffee cups, paper and plastic plates, bowls, and clamshells. These materials will all be considered recyclable. These materials should be clean and empty, but if pizza boxes, for example, have a little bit of oil on them, that's okay to recycle. If it's drenched in sauce and cheese, we ask that it goes to the trash or compost bin if you have a compost system. Other materials that are now recyclable for the commercial sector are rigid bulky plastics, such as milk crates, large plastic tubs and containers, like for coffee or deli products, milk, juice, and soup cartons, as well as aluminum foil and pie pans. What is now removed from what is considered to be recyclable is plastic bags, films, and wraps. For single-strand curbside, we are asking residents to put their recyclables in paper bags, but loose is most preferred. These bags and wraps can often be recycled at grocery stores and retailers in the district. Now, for commercial properties, we are allowing large bags for commercial operational purposes. However, please keep in mind that a lot of recycling facilities often reject the whole bag of recyclables because the bags create an operational and safety hazard, as seen on the bottom right picture. Bags of bags are what we really want to avoid, but larger liners are accepted to move materials to your dumpsters or compactors outside. So how this new recycling list might impact your industry is you may require new communication with guests or patients on recycling requirements. It may require new signage or training staff, and it may require for you to check with your haulers to ensure compliance on your contract that the recyclables that are now considered to be recycled can be accepted. So some resources are currently available now if you go to our website. And again, for those who joined us a little later, we will be sharing this slide deck, and the webinar is getting recorded, so you can have a chance to listen into the entire conversation. So on our website is a one-page fact sheet that explains the new requirements, and on the back it has all the different types of materials that are now considered to be recyclable. And you can use that and copy and print it and share it to staff or use it as a sign. It's up to you. We also have other resources if you are interested in really some of the technical aspects of how this list was created. Again, you can find the information on our website. There's also a frequently asked questions section. One resource that is very exciting and we're happy to share is the Compactor Grant Program. This is a $1 million grant total where eligible DC business owners may use a grant to purchase or lease a compactor to collect and compact trash or other waste such as recyclables. So you can have up to $13,500 for the purchase of an eligible compactor or up to $9,000 for the lease of an eligible compactor. The applications will be accepted on a rolling basis starting June 30, 2017, so coming up. And the submission deadline is September 8, 2017. The website is for the application, it will be on dslbd.dc.gov/compactor. And compactors are a really great way to compact your waste so that there can be less frequent trips with your haulers and could drive down costs for picking up waste. So other tools and resources that we are developing to help all stakeholders transition to this new recycling list. We're developing a commercial recycling guide. We're creating a calculator so that you can punch in how many tenants you might have in your building and figure out what the capacity or volume you will need to have dumpsters for recycling or waste outside. We're creating decals so that it's easy for staff who are separating the waste from inside the building to outside, can easily identify the containers and separate their waste. Again, the fact sheet is available, but we will be creating additional guidance sheets on how to build a successful recycling program. So at this time, I do want to open the line to see if there's anyone who has any specific questions about this recycling list. If you guys can give me 1 second, I'll unmute everyone. Are there any questions or feedback? Everyone's open in terms of audio. Could also use the chat function on the right.
Are the PowerPoint slides available to be sent out to the individuals who are on the webinar?
Yes, of course. We're also not only providing the slide deck today, but we will be recording this webinar so that if you miss any parts of it, you guys can review. But I do anticipate that we will have additional time at the end. We have a pretty small group that has joined in. So if there's anything specific you would like me to review again in terms of current recycling requirements or again, what's on this new recycling list, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Sure. Any other questions? Could I ask the group, again, everyone is on unmute, but are there any specific tools and resources that you guys may need? Again, we're developing signs that you can print and decals, but are there any other resources that you might need to help build a successful recycling program at your facilities?
I would just say maybe like a poster, like a one-page poster or something, or a flyer that when we're meeting with, because we have a sustainability committee, so when we're meeting with our teams, as we're rounding and stuff, we could talk to the different departments in our hospital about it.
Perfect. Yeah, that's very helpful. So we do have that 8.5 by 11 fact sheet that we will email out with the slide deck as well as this recorded webinar. And that's a very helpful fact sheet that kind of explains, the current recycling requirements. And then on the back, it has all the materials, specific materials, what should be inside the bins. So I'll make sure to include that. But we are going to be developing additional signs so that in an 8.5, 11, or 11 by 17 poster can be easily printed, laminated if you wish, and you guys can, post it on your walls where your recycling bins are. So we are in development of that. Any other feedback before we move on? Okay. And we will have more opportunity for questions and feedback at the end, so we'll get back to that. Okay, so we're going to move forward with some other requirements in terms of food service packaging. So we just talked about recycling for hospitals and how to discard materials after they have been generated. So we talked about in your patient waiting rooms or elevator lobbies. But now I'm going to be talking about food and beverage establishments that might be in your facilities, such as a cafeteria, or maybe you have a little coffee shop or a small cafe where food is served. Food packaging requirements are applied to in terms of what products you procure and source in terms of if they are compliant for customer and consumer use. And these materials, again, once they have been generated, it will go to the recycling list like we talked about. So we'll go into the details of that. So there are now relatively new requirements for the type of disposable food service where businesses or organizations that sell or serve food and beverages in the district can use to serve customers. In this case, if you have a cafeteria again, or a cafe, or if you're serving food or beverages of any kind to your patients during their care, then these requirements apply to you. And as you may be already aware, in the district there is a ban on styrofoam or expanded polystyrene food serviceware that went into effect in 2016. In addition to this foam ban, starting in January of this year, disposable food serviceware also must be recyclable or compostable. And we've defined what recyclable and compostable means according to this mayor's list, which we just described in this webinar. I also want to mention that while in the 2017 requirements are currently in effect, we're really focusing on outreach and education for the first year in order to make sure that the regulated community is aware of these new requirements. We will start actively enforcing the law in January of 2018. The following is a list of materials pulled directly from the recycling list that are considered compliant under the new food service packaging requirements. Essentially, disposable food service products made of rigid plastics, paper with a plastic or wax coating, and anything certified as compostable by BPI are all considered compliant with the requirements. There are certain items that we consider compliant with the food packaging requirements, but that should not be put into the recycling stream. So items made of recyclable materials like rigid plastics, but are smaller than 2 by 2 inches in diameter in 2 dimensions are okay to distribute to consumers. But once they've been used, they should not be put in the recycling bin. And so these products that we're really talking about include straws, utensils or cutlery, small salad dressing or condiment containers, coffee stirrers. These products that are, again, 2 inches in 2 dimensions, they typically fall through the recycling process, and so they do not get captured. So we ask that while these are compliant for you to use for customers, they should be placed in the trash bin, or if you have compostable cutlery, that could go into the compost bin, but it should not go into the recycling bin. So what's now banned in terms of food service packaging, items that we'll be targeting for enforcement beginning in 2018 are primarily products made of mixed materials, so plastic and paper, foil and paper like a hot dog or a hamburger wrapper. So paper bread and cookie bags with a plastic window, these materials will now be banned. What does not apply, as a reminder, there are few exceptions to these requirements. Anything that is packaged outside of the district is exempt, as well as materials used to package raw meat or uncooked meat, fish, poultry, and seafood. Any food service products purchased for home, while this is not really relevant to the stakeholder group, just as an FYI, will not be applied. So to kind of go over the timeline, so again, back in December of 2016, we reviewed that this recycling list was published and these requirements were issued. All the recycling facilities, the solid waste collectors or the haulers, and trade associations were notified in advance. We're currently in the spring second phase where we are going through this process of notifying all the district businesses and commercial properties. We're doing stakeholder engagement, soliciting feedback on what you need to transition to this new recycling list, conducting education and outreach, and we are developing tools and resources again. In the fall, we will be doing additional outreach, so we'll do probably another round of webinars. We'll publish tools and resources that we have developed in the spring. Again, items like signs or posters or calculators and things of that nature will be on our website. And in January 1 of 2018, again, all of this goes into effect. Food packaging rules will be effective and enforcement will begin. The mayor's list of recyclables, again, this recycling list will also go into effect. And at that point, all properties in the district, not just healthcare facilities, but all properties will be required to source separate the recyclables according to this list. So that concludes our presentation. I am happy to open the lines again to go over any questions that you guys may have. Again, I know we ended a little early and we did want to budget enough time for questions. So if you have any questions about current recycling requirements, I'm happy to go over that again. Also what's included on the list. So everyone have been unmuted. So if you have any questions, please feel free to jump in. All right, for those of you who have joined later, are there any specific items that you would like me to cover? I will say that this webinar is being recorded and the slide deck will be provided to everyone who's on the call. Okay, well, that concludes our webinar today. Thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it. If you have any specific questions, our information is here on the webinar. You can contact us at zero.waste@dc.gov. And for food service packaging information, you could also email Lillin, LILLIN.power@dc.gov. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll follow up with you with an email on this webinar. Thanks.